all the techniques where you're in a hold or a lock is the same idea. So captured twigs, the first thing you're doing, actually the very first thing you're doing, it should be bringing your elbows back a little bit. That should be a habit for you, just like when somebody puts their arm around your neck, the first thing that should happen is that your chin tucks. Right? You guys are all pretty good with that. If I take Mr. Solinos right over here, I don't think I'll ever get to his throat. Because he's done this many times. Look what he's going to do right when I get here. This chin is already, it's easy because it's so fast of a motion, and it goes by feel. It's not like this. Right? The guy has to touch, right? So he's going to feel this already wrapping around the neck, and it's almost like this part of his shoulder is talking to his chin, right? And by the time I ever get there, he already touched his chin. That's extremely important in grasp or death or any choke technique, right? Now in captured twigs, what you should do is immediately get your elbows back a tiny bit, just like that, because it solves two problems. Number one, as he now steps to the left, it's a better pin, right? Imagine having the elbow stuck in front of you. Now pin my arm. It's a little harder, isn't it? You can still do it, but it's more difficult. But the biggest problem is this arm right here. If I'm grabbing and you want to do a hammer fist, you would want to have this elbow kind of back behind you a little bit. And this acts like a brace against me, so I cannot get quite as tight of a bear hug as I would like. Does that make sense? Like you get two little corners sticking out, right? So I'm going to let you try that on people in just a moment, on each other, just a moment. So the first thing that should happen is your elbow should come back slightly so you can pin more comfortably, and you're going to be able to do a hammer fist without it being smothered because the guy is grabbing around your upper arm or your elbow, right? So while you're doing that, that's not what's affecting your opponent as much yet, other than it prevents him from having quite as tight of a bear hug possibly. But what is really important is that you're going to drop your weight, and yes, of course, you're going to pin, and yes, of course, you're about to do the hammer fist too. But the first thing we're doing is shifting our opponent's position. All right, we're forcing, so if you're doing that to me, no, I'm going to do the bear hug to you. Right? So first, let's take it step by step so we don't have to worry about, too many things. So first, get your elbows back a little bit, right? Now, just step to your left. And that's it. And of course, you have to drop your weight. Come back. Step to your left without dropping your weight whatsoever. How is that working for you? It's not, right? Now, don't step to the left at all. Only drop your weight. How is that working? That's working better. But that you can do, right? Between these two ingredients, moving to the left and dropping, the one that has more force is the dropping. Right? So he's going to drop diagonally down. Right? So he feels the bear hug, or he notices, hopefully, yep, there you go. And he goes right into that position. Most likely, I'm going to adjust to that. It is highly unlikely that as a bear hug person, if I'm doing a bear hug, or if anybody does a bear hug, isn't the point of that to do one of two things? Either trying to, well, one of three things. If it's a really strong guy, they could try to just squeeze you. That is something you have to worry about if they're strong, right? They can break your ribs, right? Number two, they could be holding you for a second opponent. Number three, they could be trying to pick you up, right? Those are all very likely things to worry about if you get put in the bear hug. Right? Either squeezed or picked up or just held there. Right? But no matter which one of those three I might do, how do you think my legs are going to position? Like, am I going to have my legs narrow like this? No way, right? Because if he moves left or right, I cannot prevent him from moving. I want to try to keep him in that position. I'm not going to allow him to just walk away from me. So that means to do a bear hug, I have to put my feet a little wider usually than what he's got his. At first. Now he's going to match that, of course, right away, right? But the point is, a bear hug person will probably have a relatively wide stance, kind of like a horse stance, more or less. They might not be good at horse stances. They might just be standing with their knees straight at first, but they're going to start bending their knees because it's kind of like a, like a push-up motion, right? So they're going to naturally do almost a horse stance, even if they're not good at one. This will make them good at one, right? So the first thing he's really doing after he gets his elbows in position a little better is he's forcing me to do an adjustment step. That's it. So if you notice, let's do this from different angles so we can see that. Just take your time on it because we want to make sure we get this right. Because for any move that affects the opponent to be part of your tool, set of tools, you have to be convinced. You have to have the confidence that you can pull it off no matter what happens, right? Or under these specific circumstances. So I'm going here, right? That's it. And now wait a little bit before I go. Sorry. So we can set it up. And the first thing is bring your elbows back slightly. Right? Now, once I got a tight grab, you want to really compare. I got a tight grab right here. Now, see if you can make me take a step, and he can't. Right? I could have tried to prevent stepping. Well, I could have tried to refuse to step, but it would have not worked out well for me. If I refuse to step, I'm in a bad position, right? So, and that's what unfortunately happens in class sometimes because attackers don't know how much they should resist. So, the one thing I want you to take away from this also is this has to be worked separately. Just as I did. So you do the bear hug to me, I have my arms already a little bit, but grab tight, there you go, and then I just step. And I got to say, okay, that actually works. I was able to take a step, and he wasn't really, do it again, grab tight, and he wasn't really able to stop me, right? The hardest thing is I can't move across and then drop. That won't work. I have to drop and then move across. So notice right here, he's pretty strong. I even have to drop. I notice him resisting. I slightly cheated out with my right foot, so it gives me some push-off power, but I'm able to do that, which means, bam, I can do the hammer fist next, right? Now, this sequence of events is extremely important, and people don't realize how that leads to the next part. In order to, let's go for just a moment, in order to do the ending of Captured Twigs, or this part right here out of Reprimanding the Bears, which is actually the old Scraping Branch technique. The technique that used to be on yellow belt called Scraping Branch, which is the exact same thing as Reprimanding the Bears, with only one exception. In Reprimanding the Bears, put me in the bag. Reprimanding the Bears, we got another opponent in front of us, right? So we're going to kick him before we then affect this guy behind us, right? We're going to talk about how we're doing this in a moment. It's not going to be possible, or not likely to be possible, for even if I succeeded right here and did the hammer fist to the groin, I cannot just go and kick my leg back because I would fall on my face. Right here. Well, you can just bend me forward. If I try to do this, I'm going to go. Right? I'm taking the leg that I need for stability away from under me. I can't do that, right? Same thing with Captured Twigs. I can't just go from here and just turn my feet because of my upper body position. Loosen the grab for a moment. I need to get to this. Now grab again, tight. All right? So even if he grabs tight, first of all, I got my hip sideways, so I can hit this way. I can buckle the leg. Right? It's hard for you to prevent me from doing it, right? Plus, again, grab. Even if he grabs tight, look what happened to my right arm. It is much more available. I can do this number right here. I can hit to the groin. I can come up in between. I can hit against his arm. None of those things were possible when my shoulders were turned to the front. I mean, my body was turned to the front with my shoulders sideways. Right here, if I try to hit with that, he can smother me with his upper arm a little bit. He can nullify, he can minimize what I can do with his arm quite a bit. But once I am slightly turned right here, which is the result of me stepping, keeping him busy, having to adjust to my first step, and then the hammer fist to the groin right afterwards gives me a little bit of room right there, which is the room I need for my hip to now get into the position that I need it to be in. So we have 3 actions here at the beginning. 4 if you count getting the elbows in position, right? That's why we got to go step by step. So first I bring my elbows back slightly, just as I feel it. Let go for a moment. As I feel the bear hug, hopefully I already have my elbows slightly back, because it gives me better leverage, better pin, and a slightly looser or larger circumference of a bear hug, right? Of course I'm going to pin. The reason why we pin, people forget. If I don't, let's put a choke on with this one. That's going to happen next. Right? That's why we have to pin. Right? So immediately pin, step up, make sure you drop, and do the hammer fist to the groin. But the moment you do the hammer fist, get your shoulders turned. Get your hips turned even more. First, focus on turning your hips, because you created the most space in the hip area. When you step over, you hit him in the groin, that's what moves back first. His shoulders his chest might not move back. He might tighten up even more. I let go for just a moment. I do not ascribe to the notion that if I hit him in the groin hard enough, he will let go. That is completely not guaranteed. If you've been in street fights, you know sometimes the opposite is going to happen. Yeah, they grab harder, right? So I have no guarantee that he's going to let go at all. So what I'm trying to do is get myself enough room for my hip to turn. Now I have my choice. And by the way, as I'm doing that, notice that my right arm pushes against this right here. From the hammer fist to the groin, it's a double strike. It is from here, bang, bang. Right? It helps me turn my hip. This is what I have to achieve. No matter if I'm going into Captured Twigs, or if I'm going into Reprimanding the Bears, or, you know, the old Scraping Branch, which is a way still exists in our system. You got all that? Yes, sir. So, we got to work that step by step. Can you see how somebody's going to be way too quick practicing and overlooks all these little details? Yeah. Right? So, that's why you got to work it separately at first, until it's in your brain. So 1, Bring your elbows back slightly. So you become a little bit more, where you stay a little bit more, I don't know what the best term is for that, but you're not as restricted. You're less restricted, right? Okay. Now drop your weight. Of course you pin. As you drop your weight, you pin. But in your mind, go like, okay, I'm going to make him step that left foot. All right? So far, all that happened to your opponent, he tried to grab, and he had to do this. That's all that happened so far, right? And so once you do that, immediately hit to the groin. Keep your arm close to your body, so that way you can track along. You know, if he's got you in a bear hug, he kind of has to expose his groin a little bit. How are you going to not expose your groin? Yeah, grab tight. Thank you. So how are you going to not expose your groin and still keep me in a bear hug? Right? Try to get your leg in enough to not let me hit you. Okay, now how's your bear hug working? Right? You're losing the ability to do your bear hug because you cannot brace yourself anymore. You kind of have to put your feet apart a little bit, and we got to make sure we simulate that in class. And when we have students, don't let them overlook that. That's the reality we often fail to teach the students, the reality of the attack. All right, thank you very much. So, all right, so we have first bring your elbows back ever so slightly. Then pin and drop to your horse stance, forcing him off to the, to step to the left a little bit, and immediately then hammer fist him in the groin. The moment you hammer fist him in the groin, you get a little bit of space right here, and your next goal is really capture twigs. Irrelevant if you're planning to finish with captured twigs or reprimanding the bears slash sweeping branch. Because if you're going to do sweeping branch, which is this right here, right, where you buckle the guy's left leg from the inside, you still need to first turn your hip a little bit to make that possible. Okay? If your hip is squared out to the front, there's no way you can do this leg sweep without taking the risk of being thrown onto your face. You all with me on that one? All right. So, bring your arms, elbows back slightly. Pin and pull them off to the left a little bit, force them into the step. And I want you to go step by step because you have to visualize the reactions, right? When you step, I hope you visualize him stepping along with you with his left foot. Now, when you hammer fist, you got to visualize that you get this little bit of a gap. Even if the guy continues to grab tight, but the hips usually move back a little bit, right? So, plus, that's the whole reason why we have the elbow back a little bit, because don't forget this one part. Do the bear hug, right? And let's do it slightly diagonal to the front. Now, do a tighter bear hug.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's having a little problem.
I remember this.
Try to pick me up.
No.
Now, I'm not heavy. I only weigh like 160 pounds. He can lift it. Now, watch what he can do now. Pick me up. Now he can. Pick me up.
No.
Why can't you pick me up?
Because you're...
Okay, step away from me. It's because of the position of my right elbow. Can you see how my right arm goes diagonally down and back? Like this way here. I'm just pointing my elbow diagonally to his body essentially. And so he's got this thing stuck in his stomach. Right? It's like trying to carry a heavy bag of, a sack of flowers. So instead of being able to carry it here, you have to carry it out here. You don't have the same amount of strength, right? So that's the first thing I'm doing. So I'm here. All right, no, go ahead and grab actually, right? So I step off. Right? I pin, of course, hammer fist to the groin. But the moment we do this hammer fist, turn your hip right away. When you're turning your hips, bring your arm in the opposite direction. So my right arm is doing two things. 1, 2. Bring his arm down a little bit. That's why Captured Twigs does that last move right here, because it's just, let's do a slightly different angle here. If you look just at the motion of my right arm, from here, 1, 2, 3. All right, makes sense? It's very quick. It's a very nice combination, 1, 2, 3. And so this could be an elbow coming back too and then coming up, but since I have an arm here, I want to use this arm, and well, I want to move it away a little bit, but what I'm saying is I'm using it as a guide. I don't have to look. I can push against the arm, even if you resist this way, right? I'm opening up, and then I just, when my palm is turned forward, and I'm just going to flip this hand around, and that gives me that next motion. That could be an elbow into his armpit, it could be an elbow to his chin, it could be an elbow back to his solar plexus or ribs or sternum. All right, you all follow along with that? Yes, so, pair up and try that. So I want you to first just work this right here and make sure you feel confident about having your arms in the right position and getting a good hammer fist in. Yes, sir. All right, and then the second part is start like you already did the step and go hammer fist and turn yourself into the cat stance. And just get that as the second exercise. All right? Okay. On the cat stance, it's almost like you're going to sit on his right side. Keep yourself low. Like you think of pushing your right hip and the second movement should push against your opponent's more or less his left leg, or like his left hip right here. Okay? Because all you're trying to do is get yourself that space. And well, the position, I should say, right? Remember, we want to have our body turn this way, so now we can do this stuff right here or this stuff right here without, falling or losing our balance. Okay. Keep going. The reason why I want you to do it in 2 parts like that is because, here, Jared, can you come over here for a moment? So he grabs me. Right? So first I want to test, all right, let me make sure I can really move him up. Okay, that's not bad, right? And obviously I can do the hammer fist right there. But now I got to see, can I use the hammer fist to help me get my hips turned? So I got to go 1, 2. That's really what I want to get good with. This is, the setup for this right here. It's like I'm hitting you with 2 things, my hammer fist and then my right hip, right? You just stand there like that. Basically, I'm trying to do hip, hip. That's a good way to think about it. Bam, bam, right there. Right? Even though I'm ending up in a cat stance, but if you think in those terms, you're going to remember more how you're affecting your opponent and how those 2 moves need each other, right? How the hammer fist paves the way for the turning into the cat stance. That affects your timing. So do it again. Do it a bunch of times. Make sure the other person has a chance to do it.
Professor, also, your right shoulder is also another striking point if they got their head there.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. The reason why I spoke more about the hip is because your shoulder won't turn until your hip turns, right?
Exactly.
But yes, I mean, the moment you turn your hip, then your shoulder could hit him too. And then the chance his face comes right into it, right?
Exactly.
Very good, very good. That's it. And then from there, do it again, hammer fist again, and then right into the, yeah, but it has to be one after the other, because you're moving his hip back and then taking up that space there. Like that, there you go. You can turn your hips more. Don't just move your hips back, turn, turn. Yeah, that's more important, it's less important. So look up for just a moment. You got me. Sir. So, because we had first so preoccupied with moving to the left, and you know that your cat stance should move to the left too, it's easy to then worry too much about after you hit with a hammer fist or moving your hips towards your left. That's not as important. What's important is that my hips turn. I could stay and play. If he's really strong with it, I might even go bring this left foot back in a little bit because all I want to accomplish is turn my hips. All right, this is a good position for me because all right, I'm in balance. Right? Okay, all right. That's very important. So the turning of the hip is more essential than how far you move up to the left.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
You down this right? Huh?
We'll rotate around.
Then you do it again.
I keep remembering we did this for a demo. You needled. You're like, keep grabbing it. And I'm like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Part of our stories.
Well, use the hip to turn. It also distracts him quite a bit. You can sit with the one. Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
That's it. Very good.
Right, see. So the hammer fist is turning you into the cat stance.
Yes, it is. But it's not so much that it starts turning in that direction, right? But the most important part is that it provides you the room that you need. Right? Your opponent was here, the hammer fist now is here, so it gives you right hip space to move into. Because of timing, when you first learn it, you kind of stop right here, and now you're restarting. And then, then you lost the power for your hip, right? That's why they need a second strike. And in a way, we're doing that right now as a drill, right? I'm literally telling everybody right now, hit once, and then practice the next part separate, hit and turn. That's not to get us to turn to 2 hammer fists. It is to be able to eventually put all of that together. Right? Make sense? If the attacker is not getting tired, they're not doing real bear hugs. It takes a lot of effort to do a strong bear hug. So Brittany, don't let the hip go back. It's like when you first pulls you up, act like, no, you're not going to go anywhere. Right? Pull him in or pull yourself against him again.
Right there.
See what he's then create himself again. Yep, right there. That's it.
I'm back in there again.
And by the way, if for some reason you couldn't hit the groin, you probably could also up to, right, if I have my elbow back a little bit already and I'm here and I can't, let's say his knee comes in a little bit, because that, you could do that. No, don't bring the foot back, because then if you bring the foot in, you're going to lose your balance. But if you just turn on do like a white kneel facing 10 o'clock. Yeah, there you go, that could happen, right? And so I can still hit him in the groin, actually, but if I couldn't, well, my right elbow coming back a little bit is also going to provide me the space that I need. If I just come poke him a little bit with my elbow, it allows me to turn my hip. That's all I got to accomplish is turn my hip. All right, so now, did everybody get a chance to do it a bunch of times?
Yes.
All right. So the next thing, you can practice this by yourself now, is after you did the turning, don't forget that your right hand turned clockwise. All right? After this hammer fist right here, when you're turning into the cat stance, your right hand goes from basically palm in to palm forward, right? That is about at least a quarter of a turn, of a clockwise turn of your right forearm, because that helps you bring your arm back up from this strike to that strike, right? You want to bring your upper arm up a little bit and push against the inside of his arm. All right, so work that sequence now. You're already in the horse stance. So again, you can keep it simple. Hit, push yourself into the cat stance, and then you reverse the motion of your forearm and turn it counterclockwise again for that last elbow. So we're now just staying with Captured Twigs for right now. All right, so again, start right here. So that way you can just work the mechanics of your right arm. 3 things in a row, all right? Hammer fist, push against the arm, and then turn it back for the upward obscure elbow, right? So, palm in, palm forward, palm back. Palm in, palm forward, palm back. And if you did the sweeping branch / reprimanding the bass version, reprimanding the bears version, that's a lot of names to keep in your head, right? Same idea. Palm in, palm forward, palm back. So there's a palm strike there. All right. So the same time, that's why it's good to work these techniques together, because it's the same idea. All right. It's just that you're going this way at the end instead of going this way at the end, but that's not that different. All right? And you still, what people don't know, what they don't think about, is that in sweeping branch or reprimanding the bears, you absolutely must turn your hip before you have any chance of this buckle working. And if you look at my front foot, don't forget that. If I'm turning into this buckle on the inside, let's say it's reprimanding the bears, since that's still a current technique. Right? Technically, sweeping branches is not in the system anymore. But look at the left foot. At the end of this, I have to turn this foot. I can't keep it like that. I'm going to be like a tightrope walker, right? So you have to get used to when you're going back to that reverse buckle to the inside of his left leg, that left foot turns and you're on the ball of the left foot, so you don't, fall.
Yes.
All right?
The visualizing is hard because you got like.
Ultimately, what happens is this will be much more effortless. You start realizing, all right, different parts of my body are all helping each other. Right? All these things kind of work, they're opposing forces that one helps the other. Right? Imagine doing the hip turning without the arm, or vice versa.
True,
right?
true. It all kind of helps together.
Impact adjustment, they're helping out a little bit.
Well, and his resistance is going to get you to your next move. Right? So if you're turning right here and the guy tightens up on you, well, that tightening up gets you back to this motion. Right? And it could prompt you to then go into the sweeping branch move, right? Or
I do like
remind the bear move.
I kind of
But
like
you
that
went
one a lot.
this, linear this way to more that way when you rotated.
Yeah, you
around.
change your angle. Yeah, exactly. So,
Sweeping branches one is nice.
one other thing that I would highly recommend, at your belt level, you got a family group that's together with the other techniques that you might have to go through right here. So no matter if it's on this first portion or this next portion or the third portion, you may have to go through the kicks of
Scraping hoof.
Thank you. Too many names to think of. Kicks of scraping hoof, right? And when you do the kicks of scraping hoofs, it's not I see that all the time. People get themselves in a really bad position, right? You come up with this, right? Bam, right there. There's my heel kick to the inside of his leg. It is part of the circle. So let me have you, Mr. Perez, right there. Are your knees in good shape?
Yeah.
All right,
Somewhat. Yeah.
Somewhat.
I mean, I don't seem like
So
they're bad.
I'm going to step over here so that way it's easier to see. But I'm circling. I'm coming up here, down there, and then I'm turning. This is all part of one motion. I'm keeping my body centered as I'm doing all of these kicks. Go ahead and turn around a little bit right here. You can see it from this angle. Right, so the camera should be able to pick this part up really easily. All right, and purposely not, I hit him with the back of my calf. You're standing in front of the other camera. I've got 3 cameras rolling simultaneously.
sorry.
4 if you count the if you count Zoom. So that's how you can test it on each other. Hit each other with the calf and see, well, how hard is it for me to just move his leg if I keep my body centered and I just bring my leg up. That's actually quite easy. Right? If I did this coming across like this, which what beginners first do, I would have no balance at all. So all I'm doing is I'm making a circle with my leg. This way. So all I'm doing, 1, 2, 3. Now I should turn and stomp on his foot at the end. I'm not going to do that right now, right? But that's also part of it, right? So we go 1, 2, scrape down the shin and stomp on the instep. We can kind of spare each other's insteps right now. And that's not the part people have problems with in terms of power. Once you get this far, I think everybody can have the body alignment and power for the scrape and the stomp. It is these 2 kicks that are more difficult for people. All right, so try that a couple of times. Get a partner and try it. See if you can walk away that you can test that out and actually compare forward hurting each other. Try it.
Your bony heel.
I thought we were using the cat. I mean, it's pretty efficient.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I like this a lot. Yeah, like you can feel the bear having on someone's legs.
Do that once like in a 45-degree angle.
Sorry, guys.
So all you put your face like 10 o'clock. Keep going.
The kill. That's pretty cool.
Just like riding a bicycle.
All right, make sure the other person gets a chance to do it. This we don't have to spend much time on, right? As long as once you're aware of
We
it.
don't spend enough time.
Yes.
Go a little higher, would you?
But this is something you can easily recreate by yourself, right?
But it's nice to have the body. It's easy to recreate.
Yes.
But I think it's so different on the body.
Yes, it is. If you've never done it on the body, then yes, you have to do that.
Especially when it's not like
So
at
it
the
is-
same repetitions as 5 swords and stuff.
What gets you the power on the first heel kick behind you is just because we're turning our right knee that way, right? It seems different, but guys, look up for a moment. This is the power of the first heel kick, right here. All right, so like this, I have you here for a moment. So I'm just going to turn to the front. So I'm going to do it this way now, in this angle, but that's all I'm doing is coming up this way. I'm just going to actually hit you with the calf just to kind of stabilize yourself nicely, right? So right here. That doesn't affect my balance at all. I just don't move you very easily, right? So I'm just going to, like, in reality, do it with my heel, so it's much more brutal. But my knee comes up in front of me, bam, which makes a real nice knife edge kick for the next part. Bam. Don't try to do that with your knee down here, right? Bring your knee up and your knee back down. Right? See if that helps you at all.
Yes, sir. Nice.
Yes, sir.
Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like that. Perfect.
It works.
It feels nice.
Johnny, I think that's you're much stronger. The thigh muscles is going up, which is perfect starting position for the
This way you can see it. I think with that adjustment, step of your foot, I think we're for some reason trying to do here, and we're not getting that power. We're losing every bit of that power.
You can insert that in the middle of the technique and it'll be beautiful.
But you notice how you told us to turn on foot?
Yeah.
We're used to turn on this.
Yeah.
So out of all the bear hug and full Nelson techniques,
We could-
rear bear hug and full Nelson techniques, scraping hoof is the one that does not require any turning of your hips.
Yeah.
So it's an important what if. Sometimes you go, okay, I'm going to try to do this, turn this way for Captured Twigs, or see if you guys can get a hint here real quick, or I can turn it the opposite way for Crashing Wings, because that's what you have to do. Even Crashing Wings, you can't just be here and go this way. When we get to Crashing Wings, we're going to work on that. Once you get here, you got to turn your hip this way. Matter of fact, let me have you for a moment. So that now it's arms free, right? But we're going here, right? And before, I cannot just take this leg out from under me. I'm going to be thrown to the ground. So my first job is to get my left hip against his left hip, right here, like I'm sitting on his leg. Right now, I'm going to get behind him and have a really good. Right? I don't lose balance, you lose balance, right? So
It's a nearsighted version.
I'm good, thank you. We're not working Crashing Wings right now, but it's the same thing in what's the purple belt version?
Yeah, reprimanding.
Crushing hammer.
Crushing hammer, thank you.
Oh, gotcha.
Give it to the brown belt, he remembers it the nicknames. Alright, so
You're
anyhow.
still talking about
But scraping hoof is the one technique that does not require you to turn you at all. There's another one, also for a bear hug, does not require you to turn.
You go straight like a right belt.
Green belt.
Squatting sacrifice?
Squatting sacrifice. Exact same, right? Because don't forget, sometimes the guy puts you in a bear hug, he sees you messing around, he tries to bend you forward a little bit.
Yeah.
But the one thing he's not restricting, like grabbing around my arms. We always think in terms of freedom of motion. Well, I can go this way. I got his leg. Sometimes it can be just the pant leg right here. People usually want strong enough pants for that, right? But what's making the next part work is not me pulling any further. This is just stabilizing, so his foot is stuck. What's going to make this work is my right thigh sitting on his leg. Right? That's what makes it work, because your knee cannot handle that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not even the pain, it's just a mere leverage. You get all this weight right here without being able to take a step back to adjust.
I thought squatting sacrifice was an arms free attack, though. I guess it doesn't really matter, but
Doesn't matter.
okay.
I would definitely put in the category of the bear hug arms pinned as a what if.
What if?
Because of the works arms free just as well.
Okay, gotcha.
I mean, I think, you're right, the original thing is arms free. Right? But the point is, even arms free,
Concept is the same.
you're not restricted. But you're even less restricted arms pinned. Because that's the way you got to think about this. Right? You got to think, okay, what can my
So it
opponent...
sounds like a real squat. In a way.
What can my opponent not prevent? Alright? Alright. Work this a couple more times now with all those options. So do it by yourself now, because right now you're going to mental training. You go, alright, so I might have tried to start with captured twigs. I messed up the turning, I couldn't turn, so I can grab his leg, go into squatting sacrifice. Or I can do the kicks out of scraping hoof. Alright? Or like Mr. Perez was noticing, well, I can do
Reprimanding.
squeezing the beach. That's what you're thinking, squeezing the beach. I'm doing it mirror-sided right now because, I was going to try to face it with my right, so I just go right into squeezing the beach right here. Right? All right, so keep thinking, all of that, they all belong together in a group, right?
Yes, sir.
So, come back over here one more time, Mr. Perez. So we have right now the family group. This is all against the bear hug from the back. Captured twigs, right from here. Just be loose right now. I'm just going to talk about the different choices. So from here to here, captured twigs, and you should group together with that. If you get your hip turned like this, the reprimanding the bears option, right? And then we have that we can go into the kicks of scraping hoof, right? And then we can go into the knee control of squatting sacrifice. All right, those should all be a group that you got to think about, because you may have to switch from one of those to the other at any moment. Right, your opponent might be wising up to you, preventing, somehow canceling one of those out. So you better know the other options like that. All right, so connect it in your brain by switching between those over and over. Do it on your own right now. Just tell yourself, every time I do capture twigs, I might go buckling branch. I might go squatting sacrifice.
So,
squeezing the beach. I forgot squeezing the beach. But I got to keep on going over in your mind, so you have that existing as a group. All these moves are related to each other, and the whole point of it is that when you think of one, you're also aware of the other options right away, right? And don't forget, you're only doing on one side. Now you're trying to do all this, there's a wall to your left. I'm not going to make you do all that right now because we're out of time. We have no time left in class. But obviously, this has to all be work mirror-sided. Right? And we didn't really spend much time with the squeezing the peach idea at all right now. Like, this is also very
That was a good insert.
Yes. Yes.
Very good insert.
All right. So, okay, so you guys feel better with this?
I like to work it
All
more.
right.
More educated.
Yeah, we gotta work this more, right? But now, I wanted to make sure, especially with a lot of the brown belts and black belts being in this class, even though there's a bunch of us that are not here today. But hopefully I only have to cover this twice, and then I get to everybody in the school. And then we can just work it really quick. Everybody's gonna know what we have to work as a family group.
I always enjoy it.
Any questions?
No, I felt it was Thursday for some reason. That's why I was totally track of it. Never mind.
That's when you know my class is good, when people think it's Thursday.
I lost a day.
All right, when people lose a day. All right, down your horse, everyone.
Yes, sir.
That's all right. Close. Full salutation.
Sir.
Very well done. Give yourself a hand.
Wait,
Before we get to